All right, everybody, welcome back. Continuing our discussion of the ignition system on BMW motorcycles from the 50s and 60s. So we're going to go ahead and assemble the points together and put some of this together so we can get ready to install it on the motorcycle. So the first thing we can do is install, I've got new points and a new condenser here. And the points are held on by this post and this one screw. So I'm going to take that screw and the washer off, and then I'm going to fit the new points over this. You'll notice this one screw here, this screw does not come out. This screw is part of this plate, and it is used to adjust, to set the points gap. When you turn this screw, it rotates this points assembly and adjusts the point gap. So do not try to take that screw out, you'll just ruin it. Then this other screw is what holds it down. Once you set your point gap, you tighten this screw to hold it in place. So I'm just gonna get that started on here. So that's the bottom part of the points. Then this is the points, the lead for the points where the wire is going to attach from the coil and the wire from the condenser. And a helpful hint, this is a 5.5 millimeter bolt and nut on this, and there'll be a little, sometimes a washer and a lock washer underneath there. These parts are real small and easier to drop or lose, so take care with that. There's an insulating washer here to insulate it from the ground. So then the other part of the points comes next, and it fits over that stud there. And you'll see this is how the points operate. And this spring needs to go over this little screw here. So see if I can get that into place there. Yep, that's it. And then that's how your points operate. You can see them opening and closing. This is the points rubbing block that rides on the advance. And as that turns, that opens and closes the points. And then to secure this in place, there's a couple of little washers that will go over that post. And then finally a C-clip. You can see the C-clip here. So I'll install that. And try to, yep, push it into place like that. And that's the assembly of the points. Then the points fit onto this plate using these two screws. I'm going to take them out. And set that in there like that. And you'll see that these holes are made so that this rotates, and this is how you actually adjust your ignition timing. So these two screws are what hold it down. I'll get them put into place. Don't need to tighten them. Just get them in there. Okay, so you can see that points plate is now in position, ready to adjust. This screw is the eccentric that you adjust the points gap, and this is how you lock down the points gap. And these two screws you loosen up and you rotate the plate to adjust your ignition timing like that. Next thing we'll put on here is the condenser. Got these two screws and their washers, and just install the condenser like this. The body of the condenser has to be grounded, so this condenser has the plate attached to it already. Some do not. And we'll just get those started in there. And I can tighten these two screws down already. So that's the condenser attached. The wire from the condenser attaches to the points lead here, as does the coil wire. These two go to the same to that point there. Okay, so the next thing we can install on here is the new coil, and it fits over these two studs here. Just locate it like that. This aftermarket coil comes with a ground wire, and I'm going to just ground it here to the body of this. The coil is held on with these two clips. So one on each side, the clip, and a little screw. So it holds this down. So get that started, and I will also slip this ground into there. And then we do the same on this side with this hold down clip. Goes there, screw in its washer, just like this. Okay. And you can tighten those down. Okay, get those nice and tight. And then this assembly is ready to bolt onto the engine. So we can set this aside. Also, we can set the plug wires and things like that aside. And then we can talk a little bit about how this system works. So the ignition system on these bikes is a wasted spark system. And all that means is that you have one coil firing two cylinders. So each time the pistons come up to top dead center, this coil is going to fire, and it fires both cylinders. One cylinder is going to be at the top of its compression stroke, so that cylinder will fire. The other cylinder is going to be at the top of its exhaust stroke, so that is what they call the wasted spark. That spark to that cylinder really doesn't do anything. So that's the way the system works. As a consequence of that, sometimes you can have differential timing, and this is a question get asked and comes up quite a bit. And all that means is there is a difference between when the left and right cylinder are firing. So you can set the timing for one cylinder and have it be perfect. And then as you turn the crankshaft 360 degrees, you notice that the timing is off for the other cylinder. And that is, that's called differential timing, and you want to try to limit that or avoid it altogether if possible. But people wonder why there can be differential timing, and I'll discuss some of that now. So this is just a used camshaft. And the way this works is this is the magneto rotor, and you'll see that there's a taper on the end of the camshaft, and this is a tapered fit. So this magneto rotor runs on the end of the cam like this. And then on the end of the magneto rotor is where the advance rides. So advance fits in here, and it indexes to a slot. You'll want to make sure when you install this that you turn it until it fits into that slot. You don't want to get it wrong. So there'll be a little bit of slop there. But this is what's spinning in the bike, and this advance unit, the lobe on this advance unit, is what is opening and closing the points. And when you look at this lobe on the advance unit, it's not round, it's an oval shape, and there's two high parts of the lobe. And so each time that high part comes to the points, it opens the points and it fires a cylinder. One for this side fires one cylinder, this lobe fires the other cylinder. So as this whole assembly is spinning around, if there's any deviance, if there's any run out in this whole assembly, you're going to have differential timing. You're going to have one lobe opening the points earlier or later than the other lobe. So that is a quick explanation of it. Now, there may be run out in the camshaft. It may not be much, but that will certainly do it. So if there's run out in the cam, that may be the cause. If this taper fit, if this magnetorotor is not seated well on that taper, or if there's something wrong with the taper, or if there's run out in the magnetorotor itself, the shaft, that's just going to amplify any run out in the camshaft. That can also lead to the differential timing. And then the fit of the advance on the end of the magnetorotor like this, it is not a super tight fit. There is some variation in that. There is a little bit of movement in that. So if that is not dead true, you're gonna have differential timing. If the lobes on the advance unit are somehow worn or not machined correctly, you're gonna have differential timing. So it's a bit of a little fucking miracle if you don't have differential timing when all is said and done. But this is how the points work, and this is just a quick discussion of what can cause differential timing. How do you fix that? If there's excessive, if you measure the camshaft and there's excessive run out, you can replace the cam. That's a major pain. You could, I suppose, check the run out of the magnetorotor at the end to see if that is good. And then maybe try to address that. Trying to address the lobes of the advance unit to try to change that, I think, would be more trouble than it's worth. So the method that I use and seems to work well for most people is this whole assembly is held on by this screw, this bolt. This bolt goes through the advance, through the magneto, and into the camshaft like this. So it holds it all together. And sometimes what you can do is set your timing, and you find out which cylinder is opening, which is firing too early or too late. But let's say one cylinder is firing too early. It's a little earlier than the other cylinder. So let me just install this long bolt here just to demonstrate. And we can, once we get this on the bike, we will see it in practice. So once this is tightened down onto the advance, sometimes what you can do is if one cylinder is opening too late, for example, you can take a drift and you can tap this bolt, which will actually just slightly move the advance. You can tap this bolt towards the points and try to get that cylinder to open earlier. If a cylinder is firing too late, did I say that backwards? Well, if the points are opening too early, then you can tap the bolt away from the points. If it's opening too late, you can tap the bolt towards the points to try to get it to open earlier. It will make more sense when it's on the bike and we install it. So, but that is probably the simplest way to address the differential timing. How critical is it that you get this right? Somewhat critical. So, I did some measurements here and some calculations, and let me show you here. This is an old flywheel, and you can see the 3 timing marks on the flywheel. So the OT is top dead center. The S mark, there's a letter S and there's a line. The line is what counts here. And then there's the letter F and the line right above it. So we always want to use these lines. The S is for the static timing at idle, which is 9 degrees before top dead center. The F for full advance is at 39 or 40 degrees before top dead center. So that's top dead center, S, F. So when you set the static timing, we always set it at the S line. So if you have one cylinder that's opening, let's say right at this line, that's great, okay? You turn the crank 360 degrees and the other cylinder is firing, let's say up here, okay? That's very common. So this cylinder is actually firing too late, okay? It needs to fire a little earlier like this one is. So how far off is this? Is that acceptable? Probably. That's probably a distance of, I don't know, 4 millimeters, something like that. And each millimeter on this flywheel, each millimeter is about a half a degree of timing. So if this example was what you saw, which is maybe, let's say 4 millimeters, that would mean one cylinder is 2 degrees retarded of the other, 2 degrees late, okay? So is that a big deal? You would probably never notice it. It's not ideal. You want to try to get both cylinders to fire at the same time, obviously. So I think what's maybe more important, if you start seeing something like, you know, one cylinder is up here, one cylinder is down here, that's, you know, maybe 10 millimeters. You're talking about 5 degrees of difference there. That's not really good. So I'd say you'd want to try to address that. The other thing you want to be aware of is, let's say you see something like this. So this cylinder is too far advanced. It's opening too soon. It's firing too soon. And this is a pretty big difference here. This is probably, again, 5 or 6 degrees, about 10 millimeters between these two lines. That's not great. And the problem with this cylinder being too advanced is that when you get the RPMs up to full advance, that cylinder is going to be firing, let's say down here. That's quite a bit past the F line, and the risk of running too advanced is, you know, damage to your motor if you do that. So if anything, you want to try to not get too far advanced on either cylinder. So let's say you had a situation again like that where one cylinder was just slightly, this is pretty common. So let's say one cylinder is here, one cylinder is there. So one cylinder is just a hair advanced, one is just a hair retarded, and they're only about 4 or 5 millimeters off of each other. You can split the difference like this and just run it, and it will probably be fine. So this type of a scenario is pretty common. And whenever you have differential timing and you start the bike and you use a timing light to check the timing, you're going to see a double line. So you're going to see kind of a double image of the S, a double image of this line. That just means you have differential timing. The cylinders are firing slightly different from each other. So that's a quick explanation of that in theory, and then in practice we're going to install this on a new engine we're building and set the timing, and we'll walk through that next.